Live from Portland, Oregon, it's time for A Different View, with women's perspectives on the fight to end prohibition again, with Portland Dispensaries examiner and mother of four, Jennifer Alexander, and professional healthcare provider Iva Cunningham from Alternative Medical Choices, Inc. Now, here's A Different View.
Hey, welcome everybody. It's Tuesday night, 8 o'clock Pacific. You're listening to A Different View on 420radio.com. I've got Jennifer Alexander here with me, and what's that?
.org.
.org, sorry.
It's on the mic right over there.
Oof. Oh, it is. Yes, that's right. Ah! We've got all these fancy new, what are these called again?
Mic flags.
Very cool. His mics were naked?
And they were naked before.
They needed something. Anyway, so now you can see us. We're representing.
Yep.
How are you doing tonight?
Oh, good. Rushing.
I love how you
I walked
in.
Woo-hoo. Right at the last second. Sorry.
That's great. Well, we're going to have a really good show tonight. We've got Lindsey Rinehart from Compassionate Idaho. She'll be on the show next second segment talking about what in the HE double toothpicks is going on with Idaho. And then we'll talk a little bit. It'll kind of segue into what's going on in Michigan. There's been some news there.
Yes.
And also a little bit about Montana, too.
Yeah, and we've got a few other things to discuss, too. I have my cheat sheets here. So there's a couple of different stories going on. One that I was hoping that we might have time to play a little video at some point towards the end. Mm-hmm. Kevin Sabet and Ethan Nadelman doing another debate. And it's just funny to hear how the conversation's going, as it's evolving.
We can't legalize. Put them into treatment. Right?
Yeah, well, more or less. Yeah, of course. That's the Sabet line. But so there's that. And then also, I found an article with Gil Kurlikowski, the U.S. drug czar, talking to a Canadian paper about marijuana. And it's fairly interesting, too. So I figured we'd touch on that a little bit. How the conversation is evolving. It's just been fun to watch.
Well, we also have an interview. Georgia Moms, Sharon Raffert, did I say it right? Raffert, from Atlanta, Georgia, did a great interview on Fox News, or I always call it Fox Noise, gotta be careful. And talking about legalization, not medical, straight out legalization.
Yeah.
Is that my
awesome.
cue?
Well,
right.
We should probably take a quick break. We'll come back, get a little more settled here. My bad. You're listening to A Different View. We'll be right back.
All right.
California is the center of marijuana consciousness. That's why High Times Magazine is returning to the Golden State for our second High Times Medical Cannabis Cup in Los Angeles. That's right. Come to LA Center Studios on February 16th and 17th for this high-flying event. Meet the medical cannabis industry, visit our extra special medicating area, and sample the best cannabis products of Southern California. There'll be cultivation seminars and presentations about getting pot legalized, not just in California, but everywhere. Be there on Saturday evening when we host a Rock'em Sock'em concert with surprise musical guests. And don't forget Sunday night and the High Times Medical Cannabis Cup Awards when we honor the best sativa, best indica, best hybrid, best concentrate, and best edibles of the LA medical cannabis scene. Plus, we present the High Times Lifetime Achievement Award to marijuana superstar Tommy Chong. Come to the City of the Angels on February 16th and 17th for a High Times cannabis celebration. Go to medcancup.com for details. Live the high life. Be proud of who you are. Be part of the growing cannabis community. The High Times Cannabis Cup in Amsterdam is recognized as the world's premier marijuana competition. Over the years, thousands of judges have attended the Cannabis Cup, sampling the best indicas, best sativas, best hybrids, and the best hash on the planet. In the April 2013 issue of High Times, read all about the sensational 25th Cannabis Cup that took place in November. Find out about the latest killer strains. Decide what to grow in your garden this year. Celebrate 25 years of the Cannabis Cup in this very special issue of High Times magazine. On sale now.
And now we're back with a different view.
Welcome back.
I guess we're going to listen to Sharon's. Do you have that queued up, Russ?
Yeah, we're just going to get that queued up here for a second.
So just to give you another overview of this is Sharon Rinehart from Georgia's Moms for Marijuana, and an interview by Fox News, local station there, discussing legalizing marijuana, not medical. Now, Georgia doesn't have medical or legal or decrim.
And Georgia tends to have some of the strictest prohibitionists.
Yeah, down south, they don't like their people.
Yeah, so...
Give me a moment.
So she does a really good job explaining, and I think she points out something. She has some brilliant points, but one of the points that she brings out is, people always make that claim, oh, what about the children? If we legalize it, more children will be using it. No. When we say legalization, we mean regulation. Most of us agree that kids don't belong on any kind of drug.
Right.
But if they're going to take a drug, it's not bad that they're taking marijuana. I mean, it's not as bad for them as any other drug. I'm gonna put that.
There are worse things they could be doing.
You.
I think that's more the way that we're trying to say
Thank
it. We don't want to be encouraging them to use more dangerous substances when marijuana is what they would prefer and has far less risks.
Right, but when I think about teenagers overdosing on alcohol so frequently and so easily,
and so many other things, there's just too many.
But there's also consequences because of prohibition, because of the black market. There are consequences of that, unintended consequences that we are saying are a direct relation, or are directly caused because of prohibition. And those of us who want it regulated to get it out of the kids' hands. That's
well, tonight Fox Carolina investigates. We're talking about the push to legalize marijuana. You've probably heard all the talk about that. Well, supporters say their efforts are working because voters in Colorado and in Washington state recently approved measures to legalize and regulate pot. Well, one of the groups rallying around legalization are moms. The organization called Moms for Marijuana has members in North and South Carolina and in Georgia.
That's right. They say it is a time to have a conversation about pot. We're talking about it tonight, that's for sure. And they also say it is time to legalize it, but not for the reasons you might think. Fox Carolina's Derek Dellinger explains.
Cannabis, marijuana, pot, whatever you call it, merely having it could get you in serious trouble. But the messages that people see
here, if you want a good smoke, try one of these,
can be seen by many as either laughable or just over the top. But this is what many think of when they think of pot.
When I was growing up, you were way more concerned about your parents or your preacher finding out that you had smoked marijuana than you would have been the police.
Sharon Rinehart is a North Georgia mother who's part of Moms for Marijuana and NORML. Both organizations are tied to marijuana legalization.
If prohibition worked, by all means, I would be all for it. But it hasn't worked, and it won't work. And we can't arrest our way out of this.
Rinehart says marijuana needs to be legalized because she believes the war on the drug has long been over. She tells us the stigma of a possession of marijuana arrest is more damaging than the actual use of the drug. And she says the numbers speak for themselves. Marijuana has been illegal in the United States since 1937. But even the federal government's own studies show over 17 million Americans are regular marijuana users, more than any other illegal drug combined, with rates growing among children as young as 12.
We know that it's an addictive substance. We know that there's harm associated with taking marijuana, that it impacts an adolescent's brain in a horrible way.
Adam Brickner is with the Phoenix Center in Greenville. It specializes in drug addiction treatment. He believes marijuana shouldn't be legalized and says keeping it from children is the biggest reason why. He sees about 100 adolescents coming for treatment every year because of chronic marijuana use.
They're smoking a lot of marijuana by the time they're coming to us. We don't usually see somebody who's smoking once a week or so.
And there's evidence to back up his claims too. A study done last year by the University of Oregon found that adolescents that were chronic marijuana users had an 8-point drop in their IQ. They also found the effects were non-reversible heading into adulthood. And this is where marijuana advocates and their opposition meet.
We do not advocate the use of marijuana, especially for young people. That is the main reason we do this, is because we want to protect our young people from drugs and marijuana specifically and get it out of our schools and in the back, playgrounds.
Both sides say marijuana use will likely never stop. The solution that each side has to combating the use among teens is different. One side recommends keeping marijuana illegal.
My concern is that if it becomes legal, when it becomes legalized, more adolescents will engage in the behavior, and more people will have lifelong problems associated with that.
The other says pot should be regulated like alcohol.
If my kid has a marijuana cigarette in their bedroom and I find it, you can rest assured I'm not going to be happy, and I'm going to deal with it. But I don't want the police to come in my house and pull my kid out of bed and search her room to find it.
Despite efforts to legalize marijuana, legislators in South Carolina, North Carolina, and Georgia aren't taking up marijuana measures anytime soon. But both sides of the debate say this is a conversation that is long overdue. No matter what anyone thinks of marijuana, they say it's high time to talk. And that conversation is getting louder. Derek Dellinger, Fox Carolina News Tonight.
That was a great.
Right, obviously, this is
I love what she said about we can't arrest our way out of it, and I think that is the biggest statement that we need to keep saying over and over again. We can't arrest our way out of this problem.
Well, and even the prohibitionists are saying we're not even trying. No, we don't arrest marijuana users. We don't jail them. We
just let them
want to help
sit
them.
There. Well, we just let them sit in jail before we arraign them or charge them. That's happening too.
And then throw them into rehab, which is just a different kind of cage.
Right, exactly. Just like you say, just a different color cage. So I love that she pointed that out. And I think, when we're talking about 6-second sound bites and and we're talking about whether you're for or against this, get that out of the equation. It's like, look, this is a problem. I acknowledge that. We can't arrest our way out of it.
Yeah, and I didn't catch who that opposition was, but let's point out how our opposition is using the language when we legalize,
right.
Not if.
I love that.
And because
when.
we know it's coming. It's coming.
Uh-huh.
It's how we're going to do it. That's the question now, not
right.
if we're going to do it.
And that is so encouraging. It tells me that there is light at the end of the tunnel and that we're almost over this nonsense and we can move on to bigger and better things. But I think that once it is legalized, what's going to happen is you're going to find these proponents, people like this, legalizing marijuana impacts his business. Mm-hmm. So he's going to have to change his business plan. But I think when it does become legal, I think people like him will start to see, okay, because we have added regulation to this, those that are most vulnerable are children, or the sick to the criminals, that sort of thing. People who are put in harm's way. Those instances are going to occur less frequently. So, and then also be generating revenue and tax base for the state. And giving jobs. I mean, we can go on and on about benefits. So I think that there will be that turn. But I think in people's mind, they can't see it. So there's a selfishness here, but they cannot see that shift, and they just can't see that reality.
Well, it's coming.
It's coming. Well, and he admitted it because he corrected himself.
He started to say if and then said when. Exactly.
And I loved it. I was like, yes, when we legalize it. The other thing too is that they're still going to bring out all that old, scare tactics. It's a highly addictive, chronic use, and your IQ is going to drop 8 points if you smoke marijuana. Well, that study, I don't think that there's ever been anything that said that yes, that was absolutely true. They think, but I don't.
Well, it was a study of a number of people, and the sample size that actually demonstrated that IQ drop was something like 35 people. Right. I mean, it was a very small sample. And why is that? Well, mostly because people that young don't tend to continue to use in such a you know what I'm saying?
Right, right.
So you're going to see these different trends. There's only a small portion of people that are using that young.
Right.
So, of course, any negative effects that we're going to see are going to be in a very small sample when you're just looking at a broad study. But then there's been dispute and there's kind of a debate going back and forth between different scientific communities, I guess you'd say, about that study. But one other study that looked at the same information said that it did not take into account like socioeconomic factors, like poor kids growing up in the ghetto compared to, and so, there's other consequences that could be causing that IQ drop. I had his ball. There's
tormenting.
It wasn't intentional. Anyway, there's other factors that could be causing the IQ drop that may have nothing to do with marijuana, and marijuana could be a coincidence in that.
Well,
lack of parental supervision could be, more
and that
likely
leads me
use.
to the other thing, talking about chronic use and these kids that are coming to him with chronic use, daily chronic smokers. To me, that sounds like these kids have behavioral issues that maybe
at least decision-making differences from the general population, to say the least.
But if you're dealing with family stress or environmental stress, you're going to look for things to escape. Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm saying.
And kids use all kinds of
So if they're
outlets.
having other issues that are lowering their IQ, the study didn't really make any differentiation between causes.
Right.
And then me personally, and maybe I just need to do some more research. I don't know.
IQ
But I don't know that IQ is so hardcore that they can predict what your IQ would have been before you lost those 8 IQ points. Who's to say you wouldn't have been that 8 points less to begin with?
And to me, an IQ test is just so silly to begin with. I mean, I really do think it's silly. Who cares? There are still highly functioning people that don't have great IQ.
Well, IQ is one measurement of
intelligence.
It's not the only kind of intelligence and all that. Yeah, I just kind of think it's funny that we've presumed that your measurement on an IQ test is somehow relevant to your well-being.
Right. Very good point. Very good point. God, I wish they were interviewing. Well, I think she did a great job, and we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. You're listening to Different View with Jennifer and Iva.
The law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. Please do not give up your precious liberties. There's nothing wrong with standing up for our constitutional rights, and in fact, it's the only way to honor the Constitution that recognizes our natural rights. Treat law enforcement with respect and respect the Constitution by standing up for your rights. If you are detained or arrested, stand up for your rights by repeating, "I respectfully invoke all my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search and seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to speak to my attorney, Omar Figueroa." Omar Figueroa has more than a decade of experience in federal and California courts and graduated from Yale University, Stanford Law School, and Trial Lawyers College. Please contact the law offices of Omar Figueroa at 415-489-0420 or 707-829-0215 or on the web at www.omarfigueroa.com.
I'm Subcool from Team Green Avenger. At TGAgenetics.com, we are working on the leading edge of medical strains. Our strains are rigorously tested for THC, CBD, THCV, and other critical cannabinoids. Know your grow. Check out our genetic diversity at TGAgenetics.com, the home of Jelly Bean, Jack the Ripper, Vortex, and other award-winning cannabis strains.
Hello? Lindsey, can you hear us?
Now we're back with a different view.
Well, we're trying to get Lindsey online. Is she on yet?
Yes, you've got Lindsey.
Hey, Lindsey, how are you? Oh, I can't hear her very well.
We're working on it. Lindsey is in Idaho, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about the craziness going on out there. We've got a senator, is it Chuck Winder? Lindsey,
yes.
Are you there? There you go. Okay, yeah, so Chuck Winder proposed 2 different bills from what I understand, one to permanently ban marijuana in Idaho, which I'm confused by, and one to demand that the federal government basically enforce their laws.
Right.
So talk to us a little bit about what's going on there in Idaho.
Well, it's a really weird thing put forth by a really weird guy. Winder has caused problems for people regularly, and so this being in addition to them was not really too much of a surprise, but it kind of was. What he did is he put forth one to ban marijuana of all forms in Idaho forever, which can't really work out so well. And the other one was to make sure the federal government is enforcing the federal laws by raiding and all of that other stuff that they're already doing. We found out that it was going to be
a hearing.
And that's the way that they start to introduce into a bill. So it went to the Senate State Affairs Committee, and we showed up to speak against it, and they had people there to speak for it, which was a little bit surprising as well. They seemed kind of surprised that we were there.
So they weren't expecting anyone to show up to oppose or to show up in favor of it?
No, it didn't seem like it. Well, they had the people that showed up in favor of it, and they sound like more okay that they were there. I think they really didn't expect us to be there.
I think from what I've seen, there's kind of two things going on in Idaho, and Lindsey, you can tell me how much of this is true, but there's those that are very attuned to the political change, what's going on in Oregon, Washington, and surrounding Idaho, and recognizing that it's soon to come there, whether or not they support it.
Right.
And then there's the other side that has this belief that they can throw up walls that will stop the marijuana from coming.
Well, and I find that interesting that, there's only one state that borders Idaho that doesn't have any type of medical marijuana, and that's Utah. That's it. And so
little corner of Wyoming.
Oh yeah, tiny little corner, that's right, of Wyoming. But I mean, it seems silly to me that they think that they can do just what you said, Jennifer, is to throw up walls, and we're going to make it so we're going to prohibit it.
We're going to be the
more.
only place in the world with no marijuana.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very unrealistic plan.
So could it work? If they treat it like they can stop it at the border from coming in, there's no way it's going to get into our state. Meanwhile, in southeast Idaho, and the most conservative part of the state, there's a grove of 42,900 plants, estimated at $80 million. That they just, found. They said it was a cartel grove, but it had been there for about 5 years. Each plant had its own sprinkler system. The only thing that was really wrong with the grow was some fertilizer that was left on the ground, which is unfortunate. But the rest of it, you could tell it was a compassion grow with hybrid plants, and they, spin it the way they spin it. And there's just more and more. There's huge busts here constantly, weekly. There is upwards of 50 pounds that get busted on a regular basis. They're not going to keep it from coming in or out of the state.
And going back to our earlier segment, we can't arrest our way out of this. Prohibition doesn't work. Just saying no, it isn't working. If it worked, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But it simply doesn't work. And so to go an extra step to insist that the federal government, or to say, hey, we're not going to do nothing. We're going to absolutely refuse any bill. We're going to fight any, it just seems like...
I cannot remember...
When they do an RS, it's a routing slip. And they say that it's not going to go into law, but it's a statement. And in the case of making it illegal in Idaho forever, supposedly came from the Association of Idaho Cities. And so we're trying to figure out who these people are. It's really hard to get a hold of them, to figure out who they are, why they're doing it. It's proposed that it might have decided committee had we not been there. It's been proposed that it would have passed forward had we not been there. And the speaking was split right down the middle. There was an equal amount of people there to speak for and against. It was like 4 and 5 or 4 and 4. And it was enough to make them say, okay, well, we want to discuss it in a committee. So they decided to print, but only for it to come back to committee for discussion, because it's never been discussed in Senate Affairs, in the state committee, the state Senate Affairs Committee. And so some of the senators really wanted to see that happen. So some of them are just like, okay, we're for it, but we're not going to say anything. And some of them are, no, we don't want any of it. And no matter what, it's here. It's not going anywhere. Because you were right.
Well, I guess the good thing is that they could just be voted out.
You'd think that would have happened.
Yeah,
but
you'd
the guy
think.
that introduced it, Chuck Linder, he was the guy that justified, he wanted to do an abortion ban, a mandatory ultrasound that you had to have in order to get an abortion. And then he decided nationally to say that women would lie and say that they got raped so that they could obtain an abortion. And so when we made that public in April and it made national news, we thought then that people would vote him out of office.
Well,
but instead, there was just an election, and guess who's back? And it's just, you follow the money, and he's got, there's a lot of money behind him from tobacco, alcohol, prison systems, agriculture, that's beets mostly. He has every reason to try to not have anything legal here.
I wanted to ask, and I can't remember his name, the senator, I think it was a senator or representative there in Idaho, Tom Trail. Tom Trail, there you go. How has he responded to these calls? Has he been openly against them, or has he spoken up at all about this? I know he was sort of in favor of helping patients.
He brought up his own bill, didn't he?
Unfortunately, he retired. I called him for some advice, and he gave me some people to get a hold of to possibly get some legislation to see if we can go in it that way. But I would have to find the sponsor and the co-sponsor. There's nobody there right now as a representative, as a senator, as anybody standing up and jumping up and down saying, "Hey, I'll help you."
So there's nobody really representing your guys' interests in the legislature right now? No friends?
Not right now.
So,
no, not right now. It's up to us.
So, but you said there were some people that were neutral on the issue. Is that what you said?
Yeah, those people that they're going to vote no in that committee, I've been assured, thank God. I don't know that all of them would vote no, and that's why we were really needing to be there right then, because we don't trust them further than we can throw them.
Right.
But I do have some assured no votes on that, and that does make me feel a little bit better. But,
and how many no votes did you say there were?
It was a really weird atmosphere.
How many no votes did you say there were, Lindsey?
I know that there's going to be 2, for sure.
Just 2. Wow.
And the committee, I think, was like 7 people.
Wow.
I don't know how the rest of them will vote. It seemed like they were taking it more as, this is just for comments. It wasn't how it was twisted in the AP piece. This was my biggest problem with this. The AP reporter came in, and she made it sound like it was a big bad thing that happened, that it got stuck in the committee, and they're going to take a vote on it, and oh no, it's big and scary. The real thing that happened in the committee was there was people there to speak on both sides. It was split down the middle. So they decided they needed to print and bring it back to committee for hearing, because it's never been heard in that committee before. And it wasn't a bad thing. If we wouldn't have been there, it could have been voted through to print and put to the floor for a vote. And we were lucky that we were there. But it wasn't this big bad thing that happened. It didn't look like the response when you're sitting in the room did not look like all of these people were out to shut down marijuana forever in Idaho, is my main point. It was not presented that way at all.
Okay.
And I did link that hearing on our Facebook page, so I think it's the full hearing. I haven't actually watched it yet, but it looks like it's the full hearing from the Weed blog. And I've linked that up on our Facebook page.
It's really interesting. Coming from Idaho, I know just exactly how conservative it is, and good on you, Lindsey. I don't know anybody who could keep going and doing what you're doing, fighting the battle that you're fighting in Idaho. But I'm glad that you're there to keep the conversation alive and to lend a reasonable voice to this debate. But boy, you definitely my hat's off to you, kid. That's a tough job.
It's not easy, but at the same time, they pissed off every single cannabis user and every single cannabis activist in the state. So they might as well have handed me volunteers on a silver platter.
Oh, very nice.
Thank you.
Well, that's true.
I decided on the blog to put, give me your phone number, email it to me, and I'll text you when we know when the hearing is so that everybody can show up. So far, I've got 54 numbers in my phone of people that want texted. When it comes to hearing. One lady sent me her number and 6 more because her friends and family want to make sure they're there too.
And that's a huge number for a hearing room. I mean, most people don't go to these hearings. No. Most people don't know what's going on, even people who are directly affected.
And they count on that.
And when you can fill up a hearing room with, even 30 or 40 people, it's overwhelming to those legislatures. You've got 54 people saying, I plan on being there already.
Right, and it's harder to talk to your constituents and give them bad news.
I'm so excited for it.
Yeah, it's much more difficult to have that conversation face to face with your constituents than to try to do something in the back room.
Yep.
And so it's really important to be visible, to show up to these events, because even if you don't get a chance to speak, your body makes a big statement.
And a lot of these legislators don't have strong opinions one way or the other. They just want to get through their day of dealing with these different issues. So unless they've heard from people like all of you guys going there, they don't know.
Well, and for those that aren't a part of the issue, they don't, I mean, they simply don't know that the issue matters unless you show up.
So kudos to you. Lindsey, really
quick. They really don't. It's like they're clueless.
Yeah, I was going to say really quick, if you could give information for people that want to keep informed about what's going on out there, is there a way for people to get involved?
Yes, please go to Compassionate Idaho. It's www.compassionateidaho.org. We have a calendar up. We have an active action alert. We have action alerts up on our website. We're encouraging everybody to call and to email and to have them retract this legislation. We would really appreciate any help. You can do that from anywhere in the country or the world.
Excellent. Fantastic. And that was .org, right?
Yes.
Excellent. I'm putting that on our Facebook page as well. Thank you so much for being with us and letting us know what's going on. And keep in touch with us. I imagine we're going to see more to come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Lindsey.
You.
Have a good one. You're listening to A Different View. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Some may say, why they take my choice?
You know, I've been playing rock and roll for a lot of years, and I've done it all. Now I do it without drugs. Hey, don't get me wrong, I still party with the best of them, but now I do it clean. You know, I'm on top of everything I do.
Fun. Big Daddy thinks. Oh yeah.
It's yours truly a kid. One Enterprises. Southpaw, what up? You taking over this year, man. More music. Yo. Hey, yo, my music's
now we're back with A Different View.
Welcome back. This is A Different View. Jennifer here with Iva, who's getting tangled up in her headphone. So in this segment, we want to talk a little bit about what's going on in Michigan. And you know, we started the show off with, you know, talking about how the federal conversation is evolving, seeing Georgia coming out and just, you know, different people on that side of it. But we've got the other side,
the panic.
Yeah, and so in Michigan, the Supreme Court there recently ruled that any transfers of marijuana... Any transfers of marijuana were illegal under the Michigan marijuana law.
And it was kind of like here in Oregon, a little hazy to begin with, but they basically said, Michigan has 124,000 patients. That's more than double ours in Oregon.
Yeah, easily more than double ours. I think we were at like 56,000 last I saw.
High? 50, I thought 50, 55, something like that. But 124,000 patients that are in there. And then businesses and non-profit have emerged from that, you know, their membership. It's just like here, okay? And these are through authorized caregivers. Like, you know, that's how their program is set
lawful cardholders, lawful users of marijuana or possessors.
So essentially, what they did, the court said that because patients cannot sell even to one another. They can't sell to one another, nor can they designate caregivers sell to patients not their own. So, like if I were your caregiver, you could not even authorize me to take your medicine and you know sell to somebody else. And you know, and also it didn't make it immune from public nuisance orders, and that's something I'm a little hazy about as far as understanding what nuisance orders are. But it basically it stopped any kind of transaction.
Right.
Between patient to patient, patient to caregiver, or any such sort of situation like they have here. And I think, it was hazy to begin with, and this was like a reaction to go in there and keep it from becoming.
But this is like the elephant in the room with medical marijuana.
Right.
If you can't buy or sell
What's the
marijuana,
point?
no, where's it coming from? It's not just falling out of the sky because I want some.
Somebody has
so
to
you're
grow
saying
it.
that you can't buy it legally. Therefore, in order to
But
use
we're
medical
compassionate.
marijuana, you must buy it illegally.
Right.
They're requiring patients to
be
participate in a black market.
Exactly. They are requiring patients to become criminals to obtain
And in their
medicine
eyes,
that
they're
they-
saying, no, we're only trying to say if you've already got it, then
Right.
but that's not how it works.
So, and
you,
it doesn't
you can't
make
just
system.
make
What
it appear.
system makes sense to make someone who's sick and vulnerable, and you can decide what level that is for your own ethics. But but we know, and I know personally, there's some really sick people in this program, and that this is it. This is their last resort, and this works.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're telling those people is go be criminals. I'm sorry you're sick and you can barely take care of yourself, but you just go be
and that
criminals.
sounds, like
And defend yourself against.
I'm not young, but I'm younger. I'm more or less healthy. It's not that big of a deal if I really, really needed to go hunt down some marijuana for me to go under the bridge downtown and buy
Right.
it.
But why should you have to?
What old grandmother dealing with cancer
Or
should be
glaucoma.
forced to peruse the city's street corners for the likely source for her? That's just ridiculous.
Well, yeah, I mean, what kind of seizure patient is going to put themselves into, a high-stress situation?
Wait. It's not even about whether or not they're going to put themselves in that position. Why are
should
we
they have
requiring
them?
that they
Yeah,
do
right,
that?
and that's, yeah.
I mean, because if they're not doing that, they're what? Sending their kid off to do it for them? I mean, it's
Right,
happening.
so in any way, they are saying they're giving a nod to the black market. In any way you look at this is a nod to the black market.
It absolutely is. It has to be. And the people that don't see that need to wake up because that's what you're doing. You're saying
goes
drug dealers
back-
are the only ones that you can get it from.
It goes back to what Sharon said on her interview and what I said. It's like you cannot arrest your way out of this. You cannot penalize everyone. And this is a silly way to do that. They have to have a way
when we
to
close
get
down
it.
these legitimate sources, people are forced to buy from the less legitimate sources. I mean,
Right.
if I can't buy from the dispensary down the road from me, where am I getting it from?
Right.
Is it the stuff that's coming in, on the bottom of semi trucks, with gang violence associated with it? Why can't I get it from the guy down the street who's growing it in his backyard?
Why
do we
can't
prefer
I go into a
the
well-lit,
other?
clean place that has, that has their product quality checked? Why can't I do that?
And the reality is it's because there's people that are under the illusion that if we don't have those storefronts, that
That
we're just
doesn't
going to say
happen.
never mind.
Because
we're going to
prohibition
say never
works.
mind. We're just not going to buy marijuana because it's so hard to get.
It doesn't make any sense at all. It's just, it is saying that prohibition is working, and so we're going to make it. We're going to do more prohibition, and it's.
I was being sarcastic, by the
I
way.
know.
Marijuana's not hard to get.
No, I know it's not hard to get.
But yeah, I mean
right
it's just ridiculous. It's really unfortunate too because not that I did it, but I come from Indiana, and as a patient, I can't use medical marijuana in Indiana, and you don't want to be there's twists to the laws for flying with marijuana, and we'll just leave it at that for this conversation. But nobody really wants to be flying with marijuana on
Right.
them, even if they're legal. And on both sides, it's a situation that's unnecessary in most situations.
Right.
However, if I go to Indiana, Michigan honors
Oh,
other
yeah, they
states'
have,
medical
yeah,
marijuana
yeah.
cards, which means that if I needed to medicate, I could go up into Michigan, acquire medicine
Right.
with my Oregon card,
Right.
and do what I need to do, and then when I'm all done, sober driving home, go back to Indiana,
Right.
and that is convenient and helpful and actually protects the patients traveling
Right.
without having to violate additional laws along the way.
But now they have to bring it in.
But now, they're saying you're not allowed to find it here.
Yeah.
There's no marijuana in Michigan.
Right. We're going to keep it out because we said so. Yeah, I mean, it is a ridiculous way to try to solve a problem. I cannot understand the mentality that says, just say no. Abstinence and everything. It just doesn't make sense. If we regulate this, we're going to keep it out of our kids' hands. We're going to ensure quality. We're going to ensure safety. And why wouldn't you want that? It doesn't matter what it is. Why wouldn't you want that?
Well, and I guess there's, just to take the devil advocate perspective there's people that would say, well, there's going to be kids still getting it, or there's still going to be these problems. Like, look at FDA medicine. And that's what I was going to say, is that nothing's 100%.
Right.
But we know the problems that exist with the black market.
Right.
That's why we don't sell true quote unquote medicine, prescription drugs through the black market. That's why it's illegal to get organs through the black market. I mean, come on, there's known harms inherent in a black market that has nothing to do with the substance in question.
Right.
Organ transplants aren't bad, but you don't want to get it from the guy under the bridge.
That has no regulation. No quality, no nothing.
And regulation.
And if medical marijuana is supposed to be a compassionate act, what is less compassionate than saying, so what, go get your drugs from the criminal down the street?
There's just so many things that I mean, society just does not look at that way. Like I said, we wouldn't tell an organ transplant, recipient, hey, there's some guys under the bridge that have extra kidneys. Why don't you go check with them?
I know this guy, he's growing them in a petri dish. I mean,
it just doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't work that way. And we wouldn't even suggest to our grandmother to go get her heart medicine, or to a diabetic to go get his insulin from, the crack dealer down the street. I hear he's got some semi-clean needles. I mean, we wouldn't do that, but that's essentially what they're saying.
And ironically, these are the people that simultaneously to closing all potential legitimate access points are saying, why don't you guys treat it like a real medicine?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so why are you telling me to go to the streets to get my medicine? And the other part of this is, I think that they assume that everybody can just grow. And I will tell you that I barely keep my plants alive, and my just house plants alive. Trying to grow cannabis, and by the way, it has to be grown indoors or in a secure environment, because there's a whole other risk.
Well, I was going to say, let's be clear, it's not hard to grow marijuana, but you're talking about taking people who already have difficulties with their health and well-being that are then forced to become full-time gardeners.
I don't know. I don't think growing marijuana indoors is very easy. I think it's difficult. I think if you've done it a few times, you kind of get it down.
Well, yeah, and I was going to say, I mean, growing a garden is also, it can be challenging.
Sure.
There's a lot of things that you just assume, you throw some seeds in the ground and out pops your fruit, but it doesn't work that way.
But let's say you are a good grower, and then the one year you get hit by mites or mold or whatever, there goes all of your crop. So then what's your resource? You go back to the black market.
Exactly.
These are safe access points for people, and and we can't punish the sickest because a few people might be just trying to get high. I'm so tired of that argument. I had that conversation with somebody earlier that they were saying, well, I can see, some people might need it for medicine. It's like, they're kind of like, it's like, it's kind of like when gay rights was starting to emerge, and people were like, well, I don't believe that it's necessarily a lifestyle choice. It's that kind of patronizing kind of attitude. Well, some people might dismiss it, and my response is, I don't care if you're using it for medicine.
I think a lot of people take Tylenol
Tylenol
when they don't need it too, but it's none of my business.
People
That's how I feel about it.
People take all kinds of stuff when they don't need it. I mean,
there was a study done a while back that basically showed that aspirin, Tylenol, all of these different things for headaches, that it wasn't so much the product that you were taking that was effective. It was the glass of water you drank with the pill that made your headache go away. But people swear by the pills that they're taking because they always take a glass of water with it, which rehydrates their system, eliminates the headache, and now they feel better. It must have been the pill. And you know, that's it. But it's none of our business. You know, I mean, we need to teach people the harms, the risks, the benefits, you know, all of these things, and let them make their own decisions. We got to quit trying to do it through politics.
Well, I think we have to take the morality out of this equation.
Out of the political equation.
I don't care whether or not you use it for medicine, recreation. I don't care if you want to get ripped on a Friday night and get stoned. I don't care. You're probably not going to do what you would do behind the wheel of if you were drinking alcohol.
Well, hopefully you're not driving. I mean, why can't you stay home and get stoned? Plenty of people do it. I do it.
I know it. I know, but I'm just saying, you know, and so I don't care what your purpose is. But this is a plant that has many, many amazing properties and uses, and yet we only think about the people who want to consume it just to get high. Like, that's a bad thing. If you get drunk on Friday, that's not a bad thing. If you have we used to have, you know, martini lunches, that's not a bad thing. You know, but to get high, even if you're recreating on your own couch because you want to, you're not allowed to. There's something wrong there. Well, the person who told me that this morning, like, oh, I don't care. Some people may use it and go, well, you drink wine every night. Why can't I just smoke a spliff every night? The same purpose.
Yep. come home, turn off the lights, put on a couple candles, some music, kick back with your
Take a
joint,
bath,
enjoy your night. Why is that a bad thing?
Why is that a bad thing?
Who's getting hurt?
Nobody's getting hurt.
Except for all of the people that are going to jail for doing it.
Right, exactly. Thank you.
We're going to take a quick break. You're listening to A Different View. I'm Jennifer here with Iva. We'll be right back.
Pussy attitude, I'll be humble when I squat into position. Check my condition. Another set of stripes from another rendition. I'm metamorphosized.
Marijuana is harmless. That's what everybody says these days. It's fun. It's recreational. Some even call it medicine. But every year, millions of young people find out that marijuana is extremely dangerous. Every year they find out that it's deadly. Marijuana smoke is lethal and toxic. Don't believe anything you've ever heard positive about smoking marijuana. It will kill you. Really. It's really gonna kill you. Don't smoke it. It will really, really kill you. Seriously. It's gonna kill you.
Paid for by the We're Not Even Trying Anymore. We made it all up. Anti-drug, whatever thing of America.
Hey, how's it going? My name's Will. I don't work at a used record store. I don't own an iguana, although I'm sure they make great pets. I don't have dreadlocks or play the acoustic guitar. I can remember quite well, thank you, and no, I don't constantly have the munchies. When 420 comes around, I've still got 40 minutes of work left. I've never hit a girl on a bike with my car or shot my friend with a shotgun. I've never had to apologize for letting a girl I was watching drown in a pool while I was getting high because, duh, I wouldn't be getting high if I was around children. I'm a regular guy who works regular jobs, just like the majority of all Americans who use marijuana occasionally and responsibly. My name is Will, and I'm normal.
And now we're back with A Different View.
Welcome back. You're listening to A Different View. I'm Jennifer here with Iva.
Just like it when I do that, and you're on.
Just point to me. You do it. So in this final segment, there's kind of two different aspects of the federal dialogue that I wanted to talk about. One is the drug czar to this Canadian newspaper, and I'm posting this to our Facebook page right now. It's an article, like a short interview, where Gil Kurlikowski is basically commenting on the legalization of marijuana as we've had here in Washington and Colorado. And he says that the U.S. government won't use their limited resources to focus on individual users, even of the legalization, but will continue to focus on distributors and growers of marijuana, which kind of goes back to what we were just talking about with this idea that users just get it out of nowhere, that they don't need dealers or growers in order to have. And that's their whole point, is that they feel like if they eliminate this supply, that it'll just go away, and that's not the case. We find alternate routes. It's coming from you can't get rid of it, Right. But he talks a little bit about that, and then he kind of quotes the Kevin Sabet line of, we need more treatment, that we need to...
That's the standard canned answer.
And I agree with that we need more treatment. I just disagree we need to be using it for marijuana users.
Right.
I think there are plenty of real drug addicts that need this help and can't get it.
Right. And that's my
and people that actually have consequences on our society above and beyond. They might not be as productive as they otherwise would have been. I'm not really worried that they're not as productive. If they want to sit and play video games, let them.
I think there are people who can have issues with anything. It doesn't matter what it is. But those people who seek out help are the ones who are going to have the most success with it. Forcing people into rehab doesn't necessarily work. It might lighten someone's sentence. Maybe they'll catch hold, and maybe there'll be some behavior modification. Maybe at the end of that there'll be some, personal controls. I don't know, but I do know that even people in the rehab community will tell you that unless someone is there and is committed to being there, chooses to be there, they're not going to have any success. So again, we're just turning people, through a different
statistics game. It's to
system.
show that there's this problem of marijuana abuse. And they point to these
But these
statistics,
are
ignoring
forced,
the fact that they're being forced into there.
Right. This isn't a choice. And they make that sound like, oh, see, we're doing a good job because all these, but to me, it's like, you're not doing a good job if you're still locking up people in prison and they're still waiting to be arraigned. They're still waiting to be, I can't speak of this case, but I can tell you that I know of somebody who's been in jail for, I don't know, months, still waiting just for an arraignment, just to be charged. To be charged. And now we want to add, so we think that rehab for drug offenses will be good.
Well, and I was going to say that the other thing that really shows his asinine perspective, from my opinion, is that he says that prescription drug abuses are the, quote, next most significant drug problem to marijuana.
They're first.
They're so much more a problem. People are actually dying from prescription drugs. There are thousands of people that are abusing them. It's affecting people far more apparently directly and problematically than marijuana ever has.
The statistic I heard was there are more people dying from prescribed drugs than there are fatalities in automobile accidents.
It's just like recently surpassed it as like the leading cause of death. It's huge.
I want to look and see what the number one cause of death is in this country.
Well, it varies depending upon how you word the question. But prescription drugs has just recently surpassed car accidents. Now we're talking deaths. That's not to talk about all the people who have been, physically injured as a result of the drugs, or even another statistic that comes out when you're looking at prescription drugs is how many people are harmed by using them properly, as directed. We're not even talking about just abusing these. We're talking about when you're using them exactly as the doctor ordered, and still suffering negative consequences. And yet we're saying that it's next in line behind marijuana, which again.
There's also this
I'm always looking for these negative side effects of marijuana because, I want to presume for just a minute that the prohibitionists are 100% right. What is the worst case scenario? That we've got some amotivational people with lower IQs than they could have otherwise had
they might
eating
be that
Cheetos.
Way anyway.
I mean, that's like the worst case scenario of what they're describing. Well, and granted, that might be a bad world, but that's their choice.
But
they're not
the
hurting anybody.
There's an assumption that everybody has a potential to be a rock star. I'm going to give you some disappointing news. That's not true. Not every one of us are going to be millionaires.
That is the myth in our society that's like pervasive. It used to be that everybody can achieve, whatever they want, the American dream by just working hard. And we're kind of learning that that's not true. So now we're blaming it on the drugs. It's the drugs that are keeping you from being perfect and having this wonderful American life.
Well, and just like there are people who are born with green eyes and there are people that are born with blue eyes. We're not all equal. We're not exactly the same. So to say that, there's never going that there's not going to be people who are amotivated. There aren't going to be people who have, addiction issues or is to live in a world with, rose-colored glasses.
And when I hear these statements about, well, by doing this, that, or the other, that we'll have more productive citizens. Who gets to decide that I have to be a productive citizen? Who exactly am I producing for?
Well, not only that, but what exactly, and even at that, is like, am I producing enough? Because now there's medication,
or
now there's
what's
pills
that
out there
line?
to get you faster, to get you going. You can't hang out.
Our whole society is designed around this.
Yes.
I've mentioned it before on our show, but every time I'm in line at the grocery store, I swear I see those 5-hour energy drinks, and it just amazes me that there's so much demand for this product because, hey, sleep's a bad thing. we don't want you to get any rest. You're not productive when you're sleeping.
And there was a commercial, speaking of rest, there's a commercial that's new out, and it's for those people who wake up in the middle of the night. And I laughed. I'm like, okay.
Intermezzo.
Yeah, so you can't go back to, but this is what I was cracking up because this is, 30 seconds of side effects. And I'm like, I still don't know what this drug does, but I know it's bad for me. I mean, so far you haven't said one thing that makes me want, to take that over.
But the marketing trick is that they say it in such an alluring, calming way that death just sounds so appealing.
She was very monotone.
I should talk to my doctor about that.
Asthma, death. I mean, she just kept rattling these things. I was laughing.
And you're kind of lulled into this hypnotic state. Yes, call my doctor. I need some of that.
I can't sleep at night. What? I can't smoke cannabis? I need that drug. Yeah, cannabis doesn't swell my tongue, by the way. But it was just. We have this idea that
I was going to say we need to close out this show with that Wookie Foot song. I hope Russ is searching that one out if he has time. I want to hear that little. But no, it's just it's the things that we find acceptable in our society and the things that we find to be problematic. Maybe we should take a step back and actually evaluating it. Prescription drugs are actually hurting people. This should be our first priority. This should be, not marijuana.
We're not going to be able to take an honest look at that unless we can remove our moral bias. Yeah. I mean, that really has to be, and that goes on both sides, because you see in this community, it's God's plan, it's this, it's that, and we want to swear that it's and it's a wonderful plan. I'm not saying that it's not. I just think that it's not a panacea. It's not a wonder plant. There are, many amazing things in this world we haven't discovered yet. But it's a long distance away from other stuff that's more harmful. And and we have to take, some of our ego out of it as well as the other side. And I am encouraged though that I hear the opposing side say more often when it's legal. When it's legal. And so on that note, I just want to kind of jump to the one last thing, kind of a shout out. We've been talking about this for a little while, but the Jared Polis and Earl Blumenauer bill, there's a more recently posted report from them that sort of analyzes this whole situation, and I'll be posting that on our Facebook page in a minute, but it presents the 5 You're
challenges.
talking about the Johnny Green article?
Well, the Johnny Green article I'm posting, but I'm also going to link to the report itself because it's very lengthy and really examines this topic from a perspective that's more neutral. It's not the prohibitionist bias and it's not the marijuana legalization lobby bias. It's that neutral ground that we're always looking for. And while activists may not agree with everything presented in here, it is that more unbiased look at where all of these opinions merge, where we need to be working from.
Right.
And the Johnny Green article that you mentioned from the Weed blog posts the 5 challenges in summary form, which is great for those people that don't have the time to read that whole report.
Right.
And he lists enforcement, federal tax challenges, banking and business challenges, medical marijuana research, and hemp as the 5 key points that need dealt with as we're evolving this topic. And then, like I said, I'll link to the full report where people can read a little bit more about the longer version of all of this.
Good. All right. Well, you're listening to A Different View. We'll be back next Tuesday if you want to catch us on the replays.
Tomorrow at 5 p.m. I'm sure of, and that's the only one I'm sure of. But then we always do post to our website at adv420.com.
Right, and you can always go to
420radio.org to check out our show and all the other shows on this network, and Twitter, adv420.
Well, night, Jen.
Good night, John Boy.
Good night, Mary Ellen.
To A Different View. We'll be back next Tuesday.
Oh, shoot.
Long, long road. It's a long, long, long road. It's a long, long, long road. My couch says that I'm staying home. It's clear to see I'm fully relaxed. Put all my worries back into a sack. It's a counterattack for my moodiest swing. I say that my weed's a preventative thing. If you can't understand why I'm fighting the band when they take all your liquor, let's see where you stand on the road. It's a long, long road. It's a long, long, long road. It's a long